Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. And somebody recently described the energies that we're currently in this retrograde as arriving with a machine gun. And I would tend to agree with their assessment. What I have noticed as of late is I'm less and less interested in watching videos giving me information about Kundalini, and I'm much more interested in being in the company of people that are experiencing what I'm experiencing through my groups. So what I'm talking about today, and I'm going to apologize for the confusion. I'm experiencing a lot of confusion right now, is I think there comes a point, or at least for me, I'll speak my own experience, on this Kundalini journey that I am currently and have been on now for many years. There comes a point where you're no longer seeking a teacher. You're seeking common ground with people and being heard and being seen and being understood in the experience. And so I'm learning in the present moment in time how vitally important it is for me to have connection with people that understand what this experience is and can offer things like listening and compassion and understanding, whereas a teacher or a guru is more telling you what to do. So I'm needing a little bit less telling me what's going on and a little bit more understanding. And so with that being said, one of the things about me as a person is when I see something missing, I solve the problem. I fill the gap. So what I saw missing in my Kundalini awakening was safe communities for people to be able to share openly and honestly in an environment where they were allowed to communicate more. So I created my spiritual warrior support group on Facebook. We have 1,500 members there now, which is fabulous. I invite you to go in there. You can post anonymously if necessary, and you can share and you can get interaction with others that are going through brutal Kundalini awakening experiences. There's lots of other groups on the internet that, are all about how beautiful it is. But my group of people are coming from a perspective of, my God, what the hell is happening to me? Because really, at the end of the day, myself included, I was not seeking a Kundalini. In no way, shape, or form. I was not doing, years and years and years of preparation, which really is advisable, because I didn't know I was going to have a Kundalini, right? So how it went is I had, a spiritual awakening 30 years ago. I had another one 20 years ago, and they were just small, happy, peaceful, relatively awakenings. And then in 2019, things kicked off and went next level. And then in 2021, I had a spontaneous Kundalini, triggered by a twin flame situationship. And I wasn't looking for it. So I was completely unprepared. I didn't even know what the hell was happening to me. I didn't know I was having a Kundalini when I had a Kundalini. I was like, what is going on? And then when the purification process started, all the purging, all the emotions started surfacing. Again, I was like, I don't know what's happening. And it took me a couple of weeks, couple months to figure out, okay, twin flame, what the hell is that? And that led me down some bad rabbit holes in regards to misinformation, as far as I'm concerned. Luckily, I didn't lose thousands of dollars that some people easily could have, and then I eventually found myself into the wonderful world of educating myself in Kundalini. But my point being, I was not prepared for what happened to me. And I'm still, almost 5 years later, trying to piece together what the hell happened to me. What happened to my life? It burned to smithereens. And this purification process that we are on has been brutal, has been absolutely brutal. And just so you're aware, I want to show up. I'm not your guru, right? I'm not fully cooked yet. I'm still in the oven getting cooked and going through this myself. So I want to walk the path with you, so that just like myself, who's seeking people to resonate back to me what's happening to me, because the confusion that you experience is so overwhelming. It's nice to have real people that are still in it. Sometimes be able to reflect back to you, yeah, that's normal, or yeah, oh yeah, I go through that, some validation, some reassurance, some gentle, soothing energy, as opposed to, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. I just can't handle, I just can't handle it. I'm doing the best I can do with what's been handed to me. And so the best I could do today was spend the entire day in bed. I think we're after 1 o'clock in the morning at this stage, and that sleep's nowhere to be found. And so I was like, well, I'm going to hop on and do my authentic real-time look at Kundalini. So physically at the moment, it feels like the Kundalini is in my head, and it's banging on the crown. And what it's doing is clearing out all the, and I can't remember the exact word for it, something. Sanskrit, I don't even know right now the Sanskrit word, but it's punching through all the blockages of my crown chakra. And the crown chakra is known as the 1,000-petaled lotus. So I imagine it has to punch through a lot of times to open us fully to our enlightenment. And that's what the path is. Do I feel enlightened? Oh my God, no. I definitely feel lighter than I was, but enlightened, no, that would be a stretch. Especially in the last 48 hours. The ego death that I've been going through, it's unrelenting. It really is. It's something will trigger me, and then I'll sit in that for a period of time, and then all of a sudden I have a massive breakthrough. And these breakthroughs would take lifetimes or 30 years to get of therapy to get to the root cause, and they're coming up in a few hours. A trigger will happen, and for a couple of hours you're sitting in the emotion and you're going through absolute agony, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I understand why I do that, or why I think that, or this or that. And then next there's a new idea that comes along that replaces the old program, and you're in the process of integrating a whole new reality for yourself. And so the dying of this old persona, the spiritual warrior, has been replaced by, I don't know, but somebody who likes looser, softer, natural fiber fabrics. And even there you go. Okay, so the act of buying clothes for myself has been very triggering because I felt like, well, who am I to like buy myself these nice clothes? I found a company called Quince that does like linens, and they're really quite nice. And there was like an aspect of ego kicking about that was like, you're not worthy of these clothes. And I was like, why not? Why am I not worthy of these clothes? Because they're nice clothes. You should go to a secondhand shop and get secondhand clothes, or you should get like cheap clothes. And I'm like, I don't want cheap clothes. I want the linen shirt that feels nice and soft and doesn't like irritate my nervous system. Oh, well, who do you think you are? So I'm bumping up against, there you go, Kundalini is bumping up against these old notions that I'm not worth a nice pair of linen shorts. It's bumping up against, old beliefs that I should feel guilty about spending money. Oh my God. Oh no. It's bumping up. So there's one thing. That was a trigger, and I just kind of pushed through it and was like, no, I'm gonna buy these clothes anyways because I feel like it. And that's a huge shift in, because I would have gotten my clothes before at like the cheapest places or Value Village or, somewhere, because there was an underlying program that said undeserving. And then yesterday was a particularly harrowing day. And I talked, I've done videos on this whole twin flame thing before, but I mentioned the other day, there's a lot of plumbing problems here. I still don't have hot water. But they think that they may have figured it out, this third person that's come in, and we're waiting on a part. But anyways, until then, this constant plumbing problem is triggering me because I'm like, plumbing twin flame, there's a connection there. So it's right there in my mind all the time. Meanwhile, I've been really trying hard for years to push this away. Like I don't want to deal with this. I want to move on with my life. I want to because we haven't seen or talked to each other in years. And I'm like, why is this still here? Why am I still thinking about this? Thinking I can control the twin flame journey. Yeah, there's no control over this stuff. So here's all these plumbing problems, the trigger, and maybe you are on the journey and you'll get all kinds of crazy synchronicities, like seeing their name everywhere, or seeing all the like signs, 1111, 1111. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. And so that's been like niggling at me. And then these forest fires in Canada. I'm in Ontario. I am very safe where I am. I'm very, very far away from all of these fires. And but my twin, on the other hand, is not. And it got me worried. So all my pushing this all away, all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, is he okay? I better make sure he's okay and check in and see he's okay. So I sent a message on Facebook, and it went unread and it went unresponded to. I might have just gone into his spam folder or whatever. I don't know. I can't know what's happening on the other end. But the silence, like triggered the crap out of me. And what started coming up then, because like this whole twin flame phenomenon is designed to trigger the crap out of you so that it brings up all these wounds. So silence is a wound of mine. And then also what I was hearing in my head over and over again was, I'm so stupid. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Why did I text him? Why did I send that message? I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so foolish. I'm so stupid. And this whole I'm so stupid thing, I was now sitting in the energy of I'm so stupid. Now, of course, this thought pattern, this belief of I'm so stupid didn't originate with the twin. It originates from my childhood of associating love with stupidity. Why would I associate love with stupidity? Well, that's because as I've been processing through this the last few days, it's become abundantly clear that having any emotions whatsoever was unsafe for me, including love. So, as you know, I was raised in a very narcissistic household where I was ridiculed and bullied quite severely. And loving people is something that is very vulnerable when your heart opens to love, and that would have been weaponized and used against me, and I would have been quite badly ridiculed or made fun of in some manner. And so my thought pattern became, when you're dealing with a bully, it's like playing chess with Bobby Fischer. And so you always have to be, what is safe to say, what isn't safe to say. And if you fall into the trap, which is having a human emotion, and that opens you to some sort of consequence, like ridicule or shame or blame, then you develop this guard, the hypervigilance guard, this warrior. So this death of my warrior is also the death of the interior warrior that's been guarding my heart and been like, it's stupid. My guard inside, it's like a Russian coach, like, don't do that, don't love. Love's not safe. If you love, then you'll be ridiculed. And I can remember times in my life where I did love, and the kind of commentary that I would receive was like, oh, you sure do pick 'em, or of course they wouldn't love you, or that he's the best that you're ever going to get. Let's just face it. Like, that's what she said about my ex-husband, is like, well, it's clear nobody better is going to come along and pick you. And these are direct quotes, by the way. And I can remember another time, grief. Okay, so you go through a lot of grief on a twin flame journey, because you go into separation, as they call it. And so there's a lot of grief that comes up. And I can remember even my grief previously would have been weaponized against me. When my son's father left us, saying, I love you, I just don't love you enough to leave the pub. 3 weeks before I gave birth, my parents came to visit me in Ireland a week after I gave birth. So it was a week after, and I had put on a lot of weight in my pregnancy, and I was grieving. I was in profound grief because I had just, my dream of having a family just crumbled. And 4 weeks earlier, and I desperately wanted him to come back and restore the family. And my mother looked at me as I was trying to get dressed in something that would be, pretty attractive, I guess attractive being the main thing. And she's like, I don't know why you bother. You're kind of false advertising. And I said, I don't know what you mean by that. And she said, well, he fell for a skinny girl who was fun. And wow, now look at you. You're fat and breastfeeding. You're not really fun or skinny. So I did what I always did when these jabs would come at me, and gray rocked to the best of my ability. And even though I was devastated. So for me, having any emotions was unsafe. It was not just unsafe, it was dangerous. It was absolutely dangerous. So this guard persona inside of me would always tell me I'm stupid. I'm stupid. Well, because it learned that programming. You know, you're so stupid. You're so foolish. Or the jokes and the ridicule over the years. So love resulted in fodder for me to be made fun of. Grief resulted in, blame and shame for not being something else other than what I was at that particular time. Anger resulted in corporal punishment and rage. Embarrassment was probably one of the worst, that resulted in just total annihilation. So I was routinely programmed with these thought patterns because of when I'd have a normal human emotion, they would be weaponized and used against me to destroy me, and so I've tried really hard my whole life to not emote, to not have emotions, or certainly not show my emotions, not be vulnerable, because I was terrified of the consequences. And so when my awakening happened in 2021 and I started experiencing emotions and the grief started purging out of my body in this great purification process that happens, the Kundalini is pushing out all your traumas. And as Bessel van der Kolk and Gabor Mate talk about, traumas lodged in your body. When it started coming out, what would happen is I would feel an emotion coming, and then I would experience terror, or absolute fear, because it wasn't so much being scared of the emotion, but I was scared of the result of what the emotion would be, except I didn't know this on a awareness level. It just went like this. I could feel grief surfacing, and then I would have panic because grief was surfacing. Or I would have another emotion surfacing, and then I would have, an anxiety attack. So I had to learn over the last 5 years how to have an emotion. And so that started with me setting a timer for 25 minutes. And I'd be like, okay, for the next 25 minutes, no matter what emotion comes up, I'm just going to let myself have this emotion. There's nobody here in this room. I am safe. And so I started to learn, and different emotions required sometimes different tools and techniques to assist me in transmuting through it. Sometimes getting up and jumping around, sometimes cold showers, sometimes lying in the grass, sometimes timers, sometimes music, sometimes affirmations. And so I would find the tools, or I would create, more to the point, the tools that I needed to help me transmute through 50 years of locked up emotions inside of me. And one of the emotions that's been locked up inside of me for the last 5 years is love, because on this twin flame journey, what happens is this catalyst soul comes into your life, and it's like they pierce your heart open. And I was embarrassed about this love. I didn't understand the love, to be honest with you. I didn't think love was like that. I thought love was something you could choose. You could say, yes, I thought love was I am attracted to you and you fit the criteria of, an individual I would like to have a relationship with. And so check mark, we're going to call that love. And that's not what this was. This was something altogether different. This was something that came into my heart, and that's it. There was this feeling. And throughout the last 5 years on my awakening, I'm like, okay, I got to push it away. Where's the off ramp? This is embarrassing. This is humiliating. I don't want to make a tit of myself. And kept thinking that I could control it, because that was the programming. You need to learn how to control all your emotions. So I love, and when I say that, I say it very facetiously, but I love all these triggers that come along that force you to like get to the deepness, right? So the love was like, and the feeling of stupid around the love was a childhood wound. It came far before this catalyst person came in, and the fear of grieving came long before this catalyst person came in. But you see how like it goes like this: something happens, and then you're triggered by this connection, even though you're not even seeing them. And then all of a sudden you're swung down into another like layer of processing these insane wounds. So I've not even yet integrated the reality that, one, I'm not stupid, that love is not stupid, that my love is not stupid. Yesterday, it came as like this massive aha moment when I realized that, trying to police my own capacity for love was a safeguard that I've needed since I was little, because it wasn't safe to love. It was not safe to love. And when I realized yesterday, and it came as like, the angels started singing for a minute, that I wasn't stupid, that love isn't stupid. That came as quite a shock, actually. And people might like wonder, how can you think that you're stupid? And it's because I was told my whole life that I was fundamentally flawed. I wasn't allowed to be me, and I certainly wasn't allowed to emote. And I certainly wasn't allowed to express myself in authenticity, which included, loving people. That was fodder for ridicule. So that came as a big shock. And then yesterday went then further on, that I'm trying to integrate that I'm not actually crazy, as I'm still trying to like figure out like what is happening, what has happened, what is going to happen. I got an appointment with my trauma therapist, and we're going through a lot of my other fears that are now coming up, because like these, this mind of mine, it's like it's been hijacked with very crazy intrusive thoughts as all this stuff is bubbling through. So like the purification process is the purification of our emotions that come out, whether you like it or not, and I spent my life numbing those motherfuckers and repressing them and, eating them down and distorting and distracting and, people pleasing and pretending everything is fine. So all these emotions are starting to like come out that you need to learn how to do. But then you also are getting purification of your belief structures of who you believe yourself to be. I believed I was stupid. I believe I was fundamentally a stupid person, partially because I was constantly told that. Despite, graduating top of my class and in college, and despite all the things I've managed to accomplish in my life, I was constantly told I was useless and stupid. So I believed that. And in the mindscape, the mind, plays all these tricks with you, because when you have these core beliefs that are kind of underneath your level of consciousness, your ego tries to safeguard these core beliefs by having all kinds of intrusive thoughts. So I was talking to her and I'm like, well, maybe I'm crazy. Like, because I have these thoughts, and we started going through some of the thoughts that had come up in my awakening process. And one by one, we started looking at them through the lens of clarity, taking the rose-colored glasses off, taking the shit-colored glasses off too, So we may go through life and we see others in distortion through rose-colored glasses, and we may see ourselves through shit-colored glasses, which is also a distortion. Especially when you've been raised by a narcissistic person who's constantly projecting their own things on you. So, like, my mother was projecting her own incapacity to have emotions onto my emotions, and she was projecting her own incapacity to make good decisions, like treat your daughter with human respect, onto me, So as a child, you internalize all this. You internalize it, not only energetically, emotionally, storing it in all kinds of places. Like, there was so much junk in my trunk. And I still, have a lot of low back pain, but it's like a million times better than it was 7 years ago. But also in your mind, you internalize, and the personas that you wear become what you're allowed to wear. It's like, I wasn't allowed to be a scholarly, intelligent person in my household. That role was filled by somebody else. So I had to be the scapegoat. I had to be the fuck up. I had to be stupid. I had to be the one that makes bad decisions. So all of that gets shoved on me, and a child doesn't go and say, there's something wrong with my parents or there's something wrong with my family. They put on rose-colored glasses and they say, my family is not that bad. It's okay, because that's how you survive. You wouldn't survive if you said constantly, you're mean. And trust me, I tried. Because I was adopted at an age that I was already vocal. When my mother used to rage at me as a very young child, I'd scream at her like, you're so mean, you're so mean. And then I'd get hit. So you quickly learn that, like, for your survival, I had better put some fucking rose-colored glasses on and not see the mean as so mean, and suck it on back. And so then what happens is, you also, with the rose-colored glasses on, you put the shit-colored glasses on, and what she's saying to you, or he's saying to you, or whomever is saying to you, you internalize and say, instead of saying, you're so mean, you say to yourself, you're so stupid. You're so stupid. Why did you do it again? You fell into the trap again. You become hyper vigilant, looking at the micro expressions on people's faces to know if at any given moment you're safe, and in any given moment you're not safe. And it doesn't matter if there's company over or it's the Christmas dinner. you can be fodder for being made fun of in those environments, and you just go through your dinner and you're like, you know, you keep on eating the dinner and you shut up. And so when you don't have the opportunity to express or be seen or be validated or be reassured or be comforted or be nurtured, all those energies are lacking. You don't have them. And so now we come full circle where I started from today's video is like what I need on my spiritual awakening right now, more than being lectured or more than being explained the knowledge that I need for a spiritual awakening, is somebody to just listen to me and like hold space for me and see me and hear me and understand me. And like, I was very blessed that I have one spiritual warrior that's, she's on the same wave as me. And, she's going through everything that I'm going through. And she's like, I can listen to you. And so I'm going through this massive release of this inner child wound coming up, where the root of I'm so stupid was born at age 3, when I'm trying to like play psychological warfare, this game of chess with this narcissistic woman who's hell bent on destroying me. Like, that was her mission from day one. It's all kinds of messed up. And so I could only internalize it. And so now in this healing process, as all these trapped things are coming up and surfacing and being cleared out, all I need is validation and reassurance, not more tools. And this is a very valuable lesson for me to learn as a guide, as a light worker as well, that, people don't always need to be fixed. And I certainly, I just can't be fixed right now. I don't want to be fixed or told tools or techniques, or you should be waking up and you should be doing yoga as soon as you wake up in the morning, and you should be doing this. I just can't. I just can't. All I can do right now, unless you have listening ears on and comforting things to say, I just can't. I just can't because when somebody comes at you and saying you should be doing this or you should be doing that, it only exacerbates the thinking that you're so stupid and you're doing something wrong. And so I even was asking the question, am I doing awakening wrong? Am I humaning wrong? Because this is the type of programming that comes at you. And so when you're going through massive purification and trauma release, I am learning that what is needed most is comforting, is reassurance, and that you're not going to necessarily find from a teacher. Because that's not the environment for that. Maybe from a therapist, yes, or, a group setting, yes, but environment is very important to me right now. And being in safe environment where I am seen, heard, and understood is of paramount. So I found myself stepping away from certain places that no longer feel safe for my hypersensitivity of where I'm at in these insane rounds of ego death and trauma release and purification and, crown chakra clearings and new things coming to light and old wounds expressing themselves. It's a lot. It's a lot. So today's mission, in light of everything that's been coming up, is finally allowing myself to have emotions, including allowing the fact that I fell in love. I didn't go seeking it. I certainly wasn't looking for it. I didn't make it happen. I wasn't in control of it. I tried not to have it. I fell in love. Uh, and I'm still grieving that. I'm still grieving that. I tried to bypass a lot of my emotions, especially the grief, because I was like, oh my God, I should be over it by now. People are going to think I'm crazy, old programming. So I tried to bypass that and circumvent it. And, I can remember early on, like when I was back in the days when I was doing sacred medicines, somebody's like, yeah, just do this and, it's going to help purify because, just move on to the next thing. And I'm like, I'm not moving on to the next thing. I don't know. It maybe how I love is wrong by other people's standards. But I don't know what else to do about it. I really don't. It exists in my heart. I'm not asking or demanding anything from anybody. I understand it's not an option. I'm not like, it's not limerence. It's love. I fell in love. I am grieving still that love. This twin flame journey is very difficult, very beneficial in how rapidly you go through massive healings. And the fact of the matter is, nobody could understand this journey unless you're on this journey. So I don't really actually care about people's opinions. And I don't actually care about people's opinions on a lot of things now. I get daily hate comments now, is my new thing. And after processing through the internal voice, because nothing anybody can say outside of me is worse than I've already said to myself or my mother has said to me. Trust me, there's not anything anybody can wound me with that my mother hasn't already said before you. And so when people show up, yesterday I got you have an annoying voice, and the other day I got something else. I don't know. I read them quickly and then I just delete them and mute them so I don't have to hear their stupid commentary again. But because of this awakening, I'm kind of unbothered by other people's hate, which is remarkable. But I'm still working through my own attempts to safeguard and protect myself from human experiencing, because I was never allowed to do that. I was never allowed to be my own person. I'm figuring out who that person is now that I'm in a safe environment and can figure out what I like by way of fabrics, by way of colors. I'm figuring out things. I make mistakes sometimes and I'll have to send a return back. And these are all spiritual lessons for me and experimentation, because I was never allowed to do that. I was never allowed to feel my own feelings. So I'm learning how to do that. And I'm learning that I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to be me. I'm allowed to feel my own feelings. I'm allowed to create my own boundaries. I'm allowed to, decide what works for me. I recently had a business discussion and my first was oh no, where does she want me to fit? And then I was like, no, where do I want to fit? So I'm allowed to be in my own solar plexus energy and establish what what is important for me. I'm allowed to love, and I'm allowed to grieve that person. I'm allowed to speak, even if some people find my voice annoying. My voice is still changing on this awakening process because it's been so squeezed for so long, trying to hold things in. So I'm allowed to have my opinions and my thoughts and my beliefs, and I'm allowed to change those beliefs through this awakening process, especially the beliefs around self. Those aren't set in stone. It's not like they were carved on the same stone that Moses carved the 10 Commandments. 11th commandment, and be is stupid. It's not on there. I am allowed to see my light and my connection to God, even in my imperfection. I'm allowed to be imperfect. So today there's been a lot of allowing, and I think that's kind of my new affirmation from this point forth, is whatever I feel triggered by is giving myself permission to feel it, giving myself permission to choose what's right for me, to make my own decisions, whether people agree with them or not, whether people like me or not, whether people even speak to me or not. It's kind of irrelevant what anybody else does, whether they're a viewer or a twin flame or a family member. Like, it really doesn't matter, because I'm allowed to be me. And that doesn't mean anybody else has to like me, love me, talk to me, respect me, value me. That nobody has to do anything. I'm not making any demands on anyone else. I'm just making the demand that for the first time in my life, I'm allowed to exist. I'm allowed to exist. And that means I'm allowed to listen to my heart and stop policing my heart. Stop safeguarding it. Because I'm not going to be shamed anymore for loving people. That's not making a demand on them. That's just loving people. And I think, according to all these twin flame experts, that's the whole point of the twin flame journey, is to learn unconditional love, which means that you love people even though you may not like them. And you love people even though they may drive you absolutely crazy. And you love people that you have to cut off. You go no contact with family members and stuff. That doesn't mean you stop loving them. I've had to cut people off. Doesn't mean I stopped loving them. Loving people doesn't demand reciprocal energy. Relationship does. That's a different thing. Relationships need to have conditions to be healthy. Having no conditions in a relationship gets you abused, and I won't ever do that again. So yes, to have a relationship with an individual on any level, on any type of relationship, you need to have conditions. But love actually can be unconditional, which can be very painful, because our minds are programmed to say, I shouldn't love somebody unless they do X, Y, Z. I'm going to just get over it. And good luck with that. I don't know. If you have the capacity to genuinely turn off real love, please feel free to write the how to do that manual in the comments below, um, because I'd never known true love in my life. Not a love like that. I've loved people, but this is all kinds of different. Like, you know, I never had one of those storybook moments, or, you know, the things sonnets and poetry are written about. But interestingly enough, I'm writing a lot of my own poetry about it now. So there is healing in poetry. So there is. I'm finding it's a way to express. No wonder there's so many love songs, because it needs to be expressed. When you've been struck in the heart with Cupid's arrow, man, you can't get that thing out. So I'm going to just keep on keeping on, and allow myself, I'm going to allow myself to grieve until one day something shifts, and it's not as painful, and maybe it's something that I can carry a little bit easier, and maybe there's room for somebody new. At the moment, there still isn't, because with my integrity as it is, and my experience with my ex, I don't feel right about getting into relationships with somebody when I still love somebody else, regardless of whether they're in my life or not. Like, I would feel bad for a new guy. So I would, but maybe God's gonna like send me a new guy, and all of a sudden there'll be a new arrow in my heart. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what's gonna happen on this journey. And I guess that's more allowing, is allowing whatever happens. But that's not for me to know. It's above my pay grade. For now, all I can know is what I'm in the present moment. And it's a lot of heart space clearings. It's a lot of beliefs being punched through from the inside out. So if you are on this twin flame awakening journey, I see you, I hear you, I understand you, I empathize with you. I'm not going to try to fix you or tell you that you're doing something wrong. You're doing the twin flame journey wrong. See, I also thought I internalized that, you know, like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. No. And even reaching out, I don't think was wrong, you know, because there was a mass crisis of fires, and my first thought was, oh my God, I hope they're okay. That's it. Just wishing them and praying for their family and hoping that they're okay. I'm hoping all of the people affected by the fires are okay. And everybody affected by the smoke as well, because I know that carries with it a lot of health concerns in the heart area, in the lungs. So be safe. Be safe emotionally, be safe physically, be safe mentally, and find safe places where you're allowed to be you. And if you would like to join the Spiritual Warrior support groups on Wednesdays and Fridays, then hop over to theumovement.com, to the events page there, and you can read about them or send me off an email. There's a contact form there, or I'm sending so much love. This journey is very challenging. Peace. Peace in.